We had ourselves a Kyle Schwarber home run sighting down there in South Florida, but it was not enough, unfortunately, for the Fighting Phillies as they come up small, 5-3 against the Marlins to end their three-game series on a down note. Failed to sweep, but overall, you got to be kind of happy with the overall product down there in Florida. 5-game winning streak has come to an end, and Thor was shaky, folks. Straight up shaky. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Phightins Phinal back here on the Edge of Philly Sports Network with Boyd Matty B on this Thursday night, and playing the anchor man tonight on a big night on EOP, 5 hours about of continuous coverage, which is great for the network, and I'm happy and proud to be the last one in the shoot. But I'm also the one bearing the bad news as the Phillies go down 5-3 to the Marlins in a game that's starting to characterize this offense more and more as we have kind of dealt with this season. Just not enough offense, and when the pitching is not good or just slightly off, it equates into what happened tonight in a 5-3 loss where the Phillies, tried everything they could to muster some offense, but just wasn't enough. As this inconsistency continues through the season, and I'm very high on them when they win, and I'm very critical when they lose, but I'm also very critical of them when they win because I am also looking at the game inside the game, and it has not been good lately. We've been winning on the backs of Nick Maton and Edmundo Sosa, which are good role players, and role players have their place, and role players need to come up big. But when we're not getting the production from Alec Bohm, which now all of a sudden 1 for 11, Alec Bohm was 1 for 11 in this series, not good. We're not getting the production from Rhys Hoskins, who before he got hurt wasn't doing anything now or then. Now, of course, he ain't doing absolutely nothing with a day-to-day hand injury. By the way, of course, everybody's aware of this by now. The X-rays were negative, but we're not getting any production from him, and we're not really getting anything from Kyle Schwarber in that leadoff spot or anywhere else. And Bryce Harper has kind of limped and drug his way along since returning from the IL. This is what you're getting. You're getting games that are being contested at 4-2 or 2-1 or 3-2, and if the Phillies starting pitching is not on, and tonight it wasn't on. I'm not saying Syndergaard was awful. He just wasn't. He was shaky. He wasn't on. And this is the type of game that you're dealing with this team right now. And it's not the time of the season that we want this. This is the time of the season that this team should be hitting on all cylinders, and we're still waiting for that. Maybe we'll be surprised, and maybe it'll be a gift to us at the end of the season, and this team will start playing like it's supposed to play. But again, just a very lackluster 5-3 loss at the hands of the Marlins, who, come on, it's the Marlins, man. We should have won that game. We should have won, just like last week when we played the Marlins. A similar type situation, wasn't it? Heading into the final game of the series, and just came out with a dud on that third game. Missing opportunities, and that's what happened tonight in South Florida. Hey, Matty B, tough loss tonight. Absolutely, Dave. Walter hits with Marsh with 4 hits. Absolutely. Brandon Marsh fell, or finished one triple, or was it one triple shy of the cycle, or one homer shy of the cycle, I believe it was. So kudos to Brandon Marsh with a 4-hit night, his first, I think, ever in his major league career, and definitely his first in a Phillies uniform. Good to see that young man starting to hit. Boy, that would be nice to put the center field question to bed for a minute, wouldn't it? We don't talk about that position for a couple years until we get some of those younger players ready up here. Let's get to the line because it's a fast one. It's kind of a frustrating one. Phillies would finish with 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Marlins 5 runs on 7 hits. How the scoring would happen? Jordan Groshans would would get the scoring rolling for the Marlins in the bottom of the third as he would take Syndergaard to deep left to make it 1-0 Marlins. And then in the bottom of the fourth, Brian De La Cruz would make that score 4-0 as he tapped into a 3-run shot, scoring Garrett Cooper and J.J. Bleday. 4-0 Marlins heading into the fifth inning. The Phillies would get on the board in the sixth when, that's what I said, a Kyle Schwarber home run sighting, folks. It's like the big great white whale. People have said they've seen it, but we really can't describe it too well. That's what we're feeling. That's what it feels like lately when talking about Kyle Schwarber doing anything offensively. But Schwarber did homer tonight. He makes it 4-1. Then Brandon Marsh, who, as I said, had the big offensive night, would double in Bryson Stott in the top of the seventh to make it 4-2. It would remain that way until the bottom of the eighth when Brian De La Cruz who would sack fly in Joey Wendell to make it 5-2, and then Brandon Marsh would try to get the Phillies back in the win column in the top of the ninth. He would knock in Bryson Stott, who had a pretty decent night as well, but it was not to be, as the Phillies would go down 5-3. Individually for the Phillies, offensively, Kyle Schwarber 1 for 3 with a run, a homer, and an RBI. He walked once. Gene Segura 0 for 4, back in that 2-hole too. Not doing too well with that. Bryce Harper 0 for 3. Somebody tell me what's going on, Bryce Harper. Somebody tell me, and I don't want to hear, we're waiting on the round of the form. I want to hear what's going on, Bryce Harper. 0 for 4 for JT. 0 for 4 for Alec Bowman. Just a frustrating series overall for Alec. 1 for 11 in the series. Bryson Stott had himself a decent game, 2 for 4. He also scored 2 of the 3 runs the Phillies had. Brandon Marsh, hands down, my offensive player of the game, 4 for 4, 2 RBIs. Matt Verling, why is Matt Verling playing? Why is Matt Verling play? Don't understand it. 0 for 4. Edmundo Sosa 0 for 2, and Nick Maton 0 for 1. For the Marlins, John Birdie 0 for 3, Miguel Rojas 0 for 3, but then Garrett Cooper 2 for 4, LeBlanc 1 for 4, Jacob Stallings 1 for 4, 1 for 3, as well as Brian De La Cruz. De La Cruz also did have an RBI in this game. He had 4 RBIs in this game. I missed that. Yeah, he had 4 RBIs in this game. That's right, because he had that 3-run homer. Jordan Groshans 1 for 4, and Lewin Diaz 0 for 2 for the Marlins. Pitching wise, Syndergaard will absorb the loss. He's now 4-2 as a Philly. He went 6 shaky, indecisive, weird innings, and he gave up 6 hits, 4 runs. They were all earned. He walked 1 and struck out 3. Gave up 2 home runs. And that, of course, is probably the story of Noah Syndergaard's outing, is the 2 home runs. He can't do that. Bilotti would come on and pitch an inning of relief. He gave he uncorked 3 walks. Thankfully, no runs. Sam Coonrod would also pitch an inning. He gave up a run, a hit, and it was earned. He walked 1 and he struck out 1. Pablo Lopez, he'll get the win for the Marlins. He's now 9-10. He went 6.5, 4 hits, 2 runs. 2 of them are earned, a walk and 5 strikeouts. And Dylan Floro would come on with the save, his 5th of the year. And that's how you have it, folks. 5-3 Marlins. And it's now on to hot Atlanta and the Braves. In a series that I think I've been waiting for a minute. I've been waiting for this series to kind of come around since I think it's the Mets left town. So hopefully the Phillies can right the ship as they move off to Atlanta. Tomorrow night, they'll start a very interesting 3-game series. Ranger Suarez will get the nod for the Phillies in the opener, 9-5, 3.62 ERA. Max Fried will be opposing him with his gaudy ass 13-6, 2.50 ERA. Not the type of pitcher you want to see when you're trying to get your offense woken up. And I hope, listen, the season's a baseball season is a series of opportunities, and you got to seize them. The Phillies still have a chance to win this division. They do. I mean, the Mets are winning tonight, and they probably will win tonight. But the Braves we have 7 games at hand with the Braves over the next week. The Braves are right in this thing for first place, right? A game out. If we can do some damage in those 7 games, if we can take 5 of those 7, hell, maybe even 4 of those 7, I'll even live with 4. This division is looking a lot different a week or 10 days from now. It's looking a lot different. So yet another opportunity has been posed to the Phillies. They haven't been too well with taking advantage of these opportunities, 4-15 against the Mets. And they got to start. They got to start taking advantage of some of these opportunities. They got to start making their own opportunities. And right now, they got one. They got one staring them in their face. They got to make some. They got to make a move. It's time. It's beyond time. But here we go. We're going to Atlanta. We're going to play the defending world champions. We're going to play a team that we're 6-6 overall against head-to-head this season. A divisional opponent. A team that's making a serious push for first place. A team that we can keep in striking distance of ourselves if we take care of business and take care of our opportunities tomorrow. Starting in Atlanta, Ranger Suarez against Max Fried. Should be a good series, hopefully. Definitely a must-watch without having no football till Monday night. So definitely, hopefully, people will be tuned in. Dave says De La Cruz had a good game tonight. He did. De La Cruz has been kind of a bugaboo for the Phillies all season long, and really the only bright spot for the Marlins, as the Phillies have owned the Marlins. And it's good to say that, isn't it, folks? It's good to finally say that for the first time in like 5 years. The Phillies own the Marlins this year. We are done, I think, with the Marlins. I think that was it. Yeah, I believe that was it with the Marlins. No more Marlins in 2022. Wow. That's yeah, to have opportunity to kind of let that set in. But yeah, I think that's it for the Marlins. Wow. Walter says that's a tough loss with the Ranger. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one with Ranger going up against Max Fried. It is, especially with the way the Phillies are playing offensively. It's just not conducive. But you know what? Hey, we're beyond excuses at this point. We got to take the opportunities as we get them. So, you know, let's go. Sean, what's up, man? What's up, Matty? Damn stinks. We didn't get the sweep versus the Marlins. We said the same thing last week, didn't we, Sean? With the series up in Philadelphia. Yeah, it does. You know, these are games. These games count. These games matter. Every single game at this point matters. Phillies have won now 80 games, 80 and 63, but they haven't won anything yet, and we got to get there. I believe last night I said the magic number was 18. It still remains that. The Padres are playing right now. They just are underway out in Arizona. We'll check the out-of-town scoreboard here in a moment, but we got to get these wins. We got to get them. That's really, do I have to be any clearer than that? We need these wins. They need to start piling up. And when you're playing against teams like the Marlins, the Nationals, teams like that, there's no excuse anymore for losing. There really isn't. That we're a better team. We play down our competition, and that's what happens. So not good tonight for the Phillies as they waste another opportunity. As I mentioned, let's take a look now at that mentioned out of town scoreboard. A light night across MLB as it is a Thursday night. Of course, the big games out there for the Phillies is the Mets are putting it to the Pirates 7-1 in Citi Field. The Pirates are in for 4, folks, this weekend. So yeah, sure, yeah. I'll let you guys chew on that for a minute. The Padres are scoreless out there in Arizona as they're heading to the bottom of the second, and the Reds are up on the Cardinals 3-1 in the bottom of the eighth. And that's, folks, is pretty much the only games that pertain to the Phillies tonight on the scoreboard. As I mentioned, a light night in Major League Baseball on this Thursday evening. But before we move on into this show, I failed to mention this last night, and I'm sorry. But the Los Angeles Dodgers last night, or the night before that, were the first team to actually clinch a playoff spot in 2022. So one team has fallen, and now it's just a race to get to the other ones. I believe the Astros are very close. I think their magic number is like 4 or 3 to clinch. So the Dodgers are in. They have clinched a spot in the playoffs. So obviously that's not news to anybody. I mean, they're going to win over 100 games again. So, but it sure would be nice, wouldn't it, to be able to clinch in mid-September? Wouldn't that be nice, man? Take the next 2 weeks and kind of like tinker with stuff instead of having to play all the way to the end. Beggars can't be choosers, though. So let's go. But it sucks. Dave says it was good to see Eflin last night. You know what, Dave? It was great to see Zach Eflin. And it poses a question that I know is in the back of everybody's mind. And I know it's in the back of my mind. And I know I've spoken about it a little bit. But what do we do about the rotation? And specifically, Noah Syndergaard. Does anybody out there feel comfortable that he can come in and pitch in the playoffs for this team? Now, we already kind of laid down the framework that pitching against the Mets is probably not going to happen for him, right? For whatever reason is going on with that. He's not pitching against the Mets. And I still want, when this is all over and done with, somebody needs to corner Dave Dombrowski and find out what is going on there. But does Noah Syndergaard, is he in your postseason rotation? Hasn't really been all that in a bag of chips since he's been here. Really just, I think aside from one start, which I believe was his last one, he has pitched and tonight was another game against the Marlins. He couldn't keep the damn ball in the yard. Do we feel comfortable inserting Noah Syndergaard into the starting rotation? Or is it more feasible to send Zach Eflin back into the rotation and move Syndergaard into the bullpen and go with the rotation of a question mark of Zach Wheeler, which I guess is a big, huge factor in what happens to Noah Syndergaard in the postseason rotation, Aaron Nola, Eflin, and Kyle Gibson. I mean, that's not setting the world on fire, and I agree with everybody out there. But what else do we do here? Because I'm not feeling Noah Syndergaard, and don't throw Bailey Falter out at me. It's a great story, but I don't think I'm feeling throwing Bailey Falter out there. But what do you guys think is your Phillies playoff starting rotation? because that's a serious question that's going to have to be answered here soon. Don't forget, we're coming into the stretch run here. We got what, 3 weeks left or 2.5 weeks left? So they're going to have to start moving their rotation to mirror what the playoffs are going to look like here soon. What do you guys think? Because I ain't feeling Syndergaard. I'm not. I'm not feeling him starting at all in the playoffs. Obviously, Zach Wheeler, the great unknown, and his injury status is a big factor in all this. So hit me up with what you guys think in terms of Syndergaard and starting in the playoffs for this team in their rotation. I hope to see a better Thor in the next start. You agree? Understand he's not the Thor of old with the Mets. Sean, we've been saying that since he got here, and I don't think anybody thought when he came here that we were getting the 2015 Noah Syndergaard. And I know I wasn't thinking that. I knew what we were getting. We're getting a guy that's literally um, step 2 in a 4-step process and coming back from Tommy John surgery. It's his first year of full season throwing since coming back off that injury. So he's been shelved for 2 years now. He's throwing. I don't think anybody was really kind of expecting the high velocity Noah Syndergaard. But the problem is what we're getting here is a Syndergaard who's throwing about 93 miles an hour, but it's all flat. There's not much movement on his pitches. And when he does go to the junk, it goes from 95 to about 83. And that's a severe drop off. And the drop of the pitch, the movement of the pitch is not that dramatic. So a lot of his stuff is left out over the plate in a slow velocity mode. What does that equal to? So I'm not saying Noah Syndergaard is done, is washed up, throw him on the scrap heap. Not saying that, but it's a work in progress with him. I'm still on with taking a flyer on him next year on a 1 or 2 year deal. Definitely still would do that. Yeah, we got some arms coming up through the system that should be here some of them should be here by the end of next season into 24 should be the other one. So I am definitely on board with taking about a 2 year flyer on Noah Syndergaard going forward into the next couple seasons. But as far as we are here now in the tail end of 2022, not feeling it. You throw him out there and hopefully that, the more reps, the more starts he gets, kind of maybe something gives, maybe he figures something out. Maybe they're working with him on some location type stuff versus velocity. We got that, but we're getting late in this game here, and that meaning the 2022 season, to kind of we got to pivot, and make a move here, because right now, if it's the Syndergaard that we've gotten since he's been here, I am not feeling him in the starting rotation for the playoffs. Absolutely not. So I hope that answered your question, Sean. I really do. Noah to the pen or off roster. Ooh, Walter's really down on Thor, huh? Okay, Walter. With that being said, then what is your rotation for the playoffs? And let's all decide right now that the Phillies go with a 4-man rotation, and also let's keep in mind that Wheeler is still a question mark. What do you do here? What do you do with Wheeler being a question mark? Syndergaard has got to be in the rotation because you're going to have to move Noah to 1. You're going to have to probably move Eflin 2, and he's the question mark kind of with coming back off that knee injury. You probably slide Gibson at 3 and Syndergaard at 4, or 4 and 3. You can flip those two around. I mean, I don't see any way else out of this. Now, it would be a lot easier if Zach Wheeler's injury situation would be a little bit more clear and we would know where we stand with him, because even though, the Phillies are not being totally upfront with us, of course they're not, but even if he's not long-term injured, or even if he's able to continue through the rest of the season, they're not going to throw him into the playoffs cold, are they? They're not going to not give him a start, Zach Wheeler-wise, at the end of the season and then just toss him in game 1 of a 3-game playoff series, are they? Could they possibly do that? Are we going to roll a rotation of Bailey Falter / Zach Eflin, or are we going to have to move Bailey Falter into the rotation? Listen, there's a lot to be answered when it comes to the starting rotation, and I got it that maybe I'm looking way ahead, but I know it's on Rob Thompson's mind. It's got to be what this rotation is going to look like come playoff time. It's got to be on his mind. Walter says Nola, Eflin, Gibson, Falter if Wheeler comes back, 2 and Falter to the pen. Okay, I can live with that. What's Dave got for me here? Nola, Eflin, Falter. God, no. Are you insane, Dave? That is Dave, we gotta so okay, let's talk realistically too. Obviously, are you speaking from a playoff series standpoint? We're not looking, we're gonna go that's our three-man rotation for the first series. And then what? Syndergaard's in the pen. Is that how we're looking? I got to look at this a little bit more holistically in terms of a four-man rotation. Now, I don't know the gap between the wild card series and the NLDS. I don't know if it's going to be enough to run that number one back on 5 days, or we pitch Nola on 4 days. Has Nola ever pitched on 4 days before? That's another unknown, if that's what the case is. And if we do get into the next round, Dave, what does your four-man rotation look like? Because you're not going to run three in a 7-game series, correct? So you know, there's just a lot to be considered here, a lot to be considered. It absolutely all depends on Zach Wheeler and where he comes in on this or does not come in on this right now. And I wish we had more knowledge or information on the Zach Wheeler injury for us to kind of wrap our heads around. But let's go over and take a look at a couple stats because I've been keeping stats all season long, and the Phillies, they eclipsed another milestone tonight. They left 3 more runners on base in scoring position with 2 outs. So, folks, the Philadelphia Phillies have now achieved the lofty number of 500 runners left in scoring position with 2 outs in 2022. 500 runners left on base and scoring position with 2 outs. 500 in my baseball life. And I have never sat down before, in complete transparency, I've never sat down before and kept a stat like this. It's the first year I've done that. But in my memory, I've never remembered a team that's currently holding a playoff spot, that's currently an 80-win team, leaving 500 runners in scoring position with 2 outs. So the Phillies have achieved that goal or that plateau in 2022. Amazing. But when you also look at it on another side, the Phillies have also scored 660 runs this year. So can you imagine if we kind of half that 500 to 250 and then add about maybe 200 runs to that total? This team would have been on fire. So 500 runners left in scoring position with 2 outs by the Phillies in 2022. Amazing. I don't trust Gibson, to be honest with you. I don't either, Dave. He's too much of a roller coaster for me. You don't know the Gibson you're going to get. You really don't. And you can't go into the playoffs with that type of pitcher. Obviously, nothing's certain 100%, but you got to have at least a good 95, 96% resolution of certainty on your pitchers when you're dealing in the playoffs. But I guess that's a question that Rob Thompson's going to have to answer. It's a question that's on my mind, and I know it's a question that's on a lot of Phillies fans' minds of what is our starting rotation going to look like come October, come the playoffs. I know we haven't made it there yet, but a man can dream. As I mentioned, the Dodgers did clinch, so they are the first team to officially enter the 2022 NL playoffs. They will most definitely have the best record in the National League and get that first round bye all the way into the NLDS this year. As I mentioned, tomorrow, again, Phillies will start a 3-game series in Atlanta, a crucial 3-game series. It really is. It's a playoff series for the Phillies. You're down by your 8 games. Actually, you're probably 9 games now because I would imagine the Mets are going to hold on. Now you have an opportunity again. You had an opportunity to kind of fix what happened against the Mets a few weeks back. You have an opportunity to go to Atlanta now and get some payback. God, it's not against the Mets, but it's payback against a team that's up above us in the National League East, and it stands in our way. You got to get that opportunity. You got to take that opportunity. Let's go out there, put this thing behind us. We took 2 out of 3 from them, and let's get the series win. Let's get the series win. It'll be really nice to sweep out the Braves. It really would. So don't forget, tomorrow in Atlanta, I believe it's a 7:20 start. Ranger Suarez against Max Fried. And that's going to do it for me, folks. It's been a pleasure and honor, as it always is, to come at you with the Phightins Phinal every night. We're getting close to the finish line of the regular season, and then hopefully it's on to the playoffs. But as I mentioned, also, I had the privilege of being the anchor man tonight of about 5 hours of continuous coverage on the network. And it's obviously a privilege, as always, to do that. So with that being said, if you have any questions about workman's compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law, Dave Cherry is the man you want to give a call to, 610-565-0300. Tell him Matty B and the boys at EOP sent you. Philly Sports Trip and all the wonderful things they got going on. They're doing every single Eagle road game this season, and also they're doing a tailgate party on Monday night in ahead of the Viking Eagle game down there at the Gatehouse, or for some of us old heads, the Navy Yard. So keeping that in mind, and then of course there's Dolan's Bar in Delco, the only bar in Delco, they tell me. Here's the schedule on EOP. Tomorrow, do some chalk talk, some Kelly Green hour, and then me, the Phightins Phinal. I'll be back with you tomorrow night to talk about some Phillies Braves, and keep an eye on all this great stuff we have on EOP. It's just non-stop, non-flipping stop, and it's great to be part of it. It's always, it's awesome to be part of it. And Dave hits me with the Fire Howie. Yeah. I'll never let a good Fire Howie go by, Dave. Yes, Fire Howie. Fire Howie, and let's go Phils. Let's make the playoffs. Till we speak again tomorrow, folks, we'll talk. Go Phils, and enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk again.